LLC. And just for the record, I am Andy Brick's boss. I'm here to talk on another level. One, with regard to the allegations that the principals, the owners or the applicants, did something wrongful at the beginning when they started leasing out. My office, which currently represents Sync Realty, represented other parties. We did not represent Sync Realty when they bought the property because we represented other people. And just like Sync Realty, I called up the town of Rotterdam. I specifically asked the town officials whether apartments were permitted in this property. And the answer was yes. And what I wanted to do was just to hand up to the board, I've crossed out the name of my client, and I blacked out their names, but I called up the town on January 28th, 2008, and I have the name of the individual from the town that I spoke to, specifically asking whether apartments were permitted. In fact, that gentleman emailed me the zoning code telling me that it was a permitted use provided there was proof that the apartments were utilized by the military housing at least for a period of at least less than 1 year. If you had a pre-existing non-conforming use, which this property is, in our opinion, and there were residents living in there, and then it became vacant and new residents moved in within a year, the rights were preserved. If you look at the request for proposals that was issued by the U.S. government with regard to this property, because the issue of the use of the property became such a major issue for bidders, and the initial bid was, minimum bid was $500,000, and it went up to, as you heard, quite substantially higher. The U.S. Army, the GSA, came out with an amendment to their information, and that information said that the U.S. government certifies that the Army barracks had been used for residential purposes through July 31st, 2007, which means that anybody who moved into the premises prior to July 1st, 2008 would be permitted because of a pre-existing non-conforming use. So I just want to make sure that the record is clear, and I'm going to hand this up, and the information is, they talk about verification from the U.S. Army. They talk about, this is a copy of my timesheets and the dates that I spoke to the town official, as well as the email from the town official sending me the information the day I spoke to him. So I just want to put that into the record so nobody's confused, because I've heard a lot of allegations that these gentlemen who purchased the property ignored the rules and regulations. I just want to supplement what Andy Brick had said was, with regard to the building department, why would they go and inspect the place and when they knew supposedly it was not a permitted use? Why didn't they say, we're not going to come out there because it's not permitted? Now I do want to talk about zoning issues. For those people who may not know our area of practice, my office does a substantial amount of zoning and planning. In fact, I try to figure out in the town of Rotterdam how many housing units I was involved in getting approved. And I think it's over 1,100. And I also helped get approvals for approximately 300 plus square feet of commercial property, such as BJ's, Office Max, Pep Boys, a couple of Burger Kings, etc., in the town of Rotterdam. So I've been before this board quite a bit, and I understand what your zoning codes and rules and regulations are, and I think I know a little bit about planning. And I would hazard a guess that if you allow the property to be removed as use for an apartment and permitted light industrial uses, such as a crematorium, which is permitted in a light industrial use right on Route 7 across the street from single-family homes, which are permitted uses, meaning all they have to do is come in for site plan approval. They don't have to go in for rezoning or anything else. I think you probably have triple the amount of people in here objecting to that application, but you wouldn't be hearing it at this board. You would only be hearing it at the planning commission level, and they would be loath to deny that right because it is a use that is permitted under zoning. And I want to point that out because there are other industrial uses that are maybe just as offensive, and I don't think necessarily that the people across the street who own single-family homes would really want those industrial uses as well. Now, one other thing that was talked about was with regard to the issue of sewers, because as Andy had mentioned, that was an issue, and it was in the RFP that the U.S. government had said that you have to go and address the issue of sewers. Well, having been involved in some development in the town of Rotterdam and some recent developments, in fact, something that occurred at the last town board meeting when my clients, Rotterdam residents, lifelong Rotterdam residents, and Rotterdam developers were asked to correct an improper sewer hookup because there were more than one user on a private line. I thought, looking at the tax map of the industrial park, where you have several tax parcels, it may be owned by one party, but there's several tax parcels, which means that they could sell off any section anytime they want. It's kind of interesting that they are sitting here today, or in the past, saying they own the sewer line, they can cut it off to Sync Realty, and we acknowledge they have that right. But why didn't the past administration say to the industrial park, follow the proper rules, set up a private transportation corporation, and then come before this town board and say, we want to have a private transportation corporation, just like the Planning Commission asked Brookview Court, DBA Piggly Vento Builders in their Heritage Apartment condo project. Why did they require that? It's been out there for probably 40, 50 years, and that's the fault of prior administrations, and I think that that's something this board should look at, and that's something that we would have brought up if and when the rezone occurs. So there are other avenues with regard to sewers, and I think that arguably if this town board were to explore that issue about the industrial park and their sewer lines, and then said to them, set up a private transportation corporation, and by the way, Sync Realty, which has been on that sewer line for 60 years and can handle the flows, keep them on it. And that would very easily address the sewer issue. Thank you.